Welcome to a live edition of GoPowercat. It's not really a podcast. It's not really a recruiting podcast. I didn't know what to put down here, so I just went with the generic GPC Live. Tim Fitzgerald in the Cats and Dogs studio, joined by Cole Carmody. If there's any problems with his mic or anything, just let us know in the comments. We're trying this, see if it works. He's running off of my microphones with his own camera. Interesting. Cole, what a weird day.
It's been a weird day. You can see that it says on my screen that I'm muted, but if you can hear me, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. We try to do a test run. We think we're working. So if you can't hear me, let us know. And Fitz is going to go. No, Fitz is not going to go solo. This has been a crazy day. Yeah. And I mean, from signing day, waking up early this morning to, where we ended the day just now, leaving the press conference. We just got home about 20 minutes ago. Sounds good. Thank you. I don't know. I don't even know where to start. This has just been crazy.
So this is my 31st signing day of this portion of my career, covering K-State full time. That was unlike anything I've ever seen. What a weird bunch of events that have happened. And I'm going to be really honest. We're going to talk probably a lot more about the Klieman retirement, at least now. We'll do the recruits on the back end, because I know most of you here are here for Klieman retirement talk, and Gene Taylor's portion of that. If you didn't see it, we did do it live. It's up on this channel. It was Taylor Bratt talking about the recruit, something Chris Klieman would have normally done. Taylor knocked it out of the park, did a great job. Nobody knows as much about this recruiting class than Taylor and his boss, Clint Brown, the general manager. I thought Taylor was outstanding. Then Chris Klieman came in and read a statement and spoke, but did not take questions. And then went about his way. He's getting out of town, going to spend some time. Cole, and then Gene Taylor sat down and discussed everything and lied.
Yeah.
Gene, I love you, man, but we know you weren't 100% true. First of all, Cole, do you think Gene Taylor has Colin Klein's phone number?
Yes.
Yes, he does.
Yes, that is a yes. There's so many interesting things that Gene said. I want to go back to what you said about Klieman and not taking questions, because I was a little surprised by that. I don't know if that normally happens. Did that happen at Bill Snyder's press? Did he take questions after he announced he was going to retire?
Well, we've never had it happen this way. I mean, if it hadn't been signing day, I wonder if they would have done it some totally different way. But because it was signing day, they needed to address it for the recruits that were signing. All of them signed, which I find interesting, because this news was out before most of them had signed. That shows what a great sales job that the staff, Taylor Bratt, Clint Brown, and everyone involved in recruiting did. All these kids stuck. But again, they also know that they've got the portal. So there's no great commitment here. I don't know. I'm really disappointed he didn't take any questions. But I'm sure he will take time to do that. This was not on his agenda. The one thing Gene said that maybe is true that really did surprise me is that they hadn't spoken about him retiring following the Utah game. And I think that's when the switch got flipped. I had flat out asked him. He was not retiring this year. He wasn't. He wasn't just telling me what I wanted to hear. He was just telling me, I'll be back. Something happened, and the stress of losing that game, how it happened, not being able to yell about the officials, which is what he really wanted to do, and just kind of all spilled out into a less than productive way. And he got very emotional. And I think that's when he realized, I'm done. Sometimes you just need that. I'm just done. And I was glad to hear him say, I'm at peace. You could tell.
Yeah.
His steps were lighter again today. He's been worn out by this. First of all, let's talk about Colin Klein. It's all over A&M. It was at A&M before here.
Yep.
So it wasn't
exactly
like
right.
K-State fans heard about this and said, "Oh, but they're on Colin Klein," and fans ran with it. They were actually tweeting about him leaving before all this broke. So I believe there have been conversations. I believe Colin Klein will be in place. I believe this team will play in this bowl game with Chris Klieman as head coach. I almost feel like they're obligated to do it. You got to give him that game. You got to go win that game, wherever it is. And then, that allows Colin to continue his process of coaching with Texas A&M, who's a national title contender, to get into playoffs, and he'll coach through that, I'm sure. Now, he'll have the resources of K-State football too. Taylor Bratt and all them will be, working the portal and all those things in his stead. I mean, it's not like the program will just be spinning in place. There'll be two programs essentially running at once. And I think that's what we're going to see eventually. There's been rumors about a introduction on Saturday of Colin. I don't know if that's going to happen at the basketball game or not. They were very cagey about the whole Colin Klein thing. One of those things that I don't get. I mean, maybe it's contractual stuff. Maybe it's like he's under contract there, but his contract doesn't prevent him from becoming a head coach.
Right.
I just think it's the game AD's, but no, I haven't talked to him. No. And, maybe quite often they haven't talked to him. They have talked to agents, but I'm pretty confident there's been conversations.
It's a little different when you're talking about Colin Klein. You're not going and talking to a random,
don't know
candidate.
About. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Colin Klein. This is what I thought was interesting, right? Like usually members of the media, we will not ask, hey, did you talk to this person? Like we were being very, how do I say this? We were trying to dance around it as much as possible because we didn't want to put Gene Taylor in a bad position. You don't want to say, hey, have you talked to Colin Klein? There's rumors that he's the head coach. Can you confirm or deny? Right? You put him in a very difficult situation, but it got to the point where it was pretty obvious that he was just dancing around all of the questions for whatever reason. And so, I thought that by Gene, I mean, like I get it, but at some point you can say we have a short list of candidates that we're reaching out to. The hiring process has, gotten underway. And I get that they wanted to save this day for Chris Klieman, and
that's what it was.
I totally understand that. And fans want to know though, right? Like all these reports have gone out there. Unfortunately, in today's era of college football, you don't get to come out and say, I'm retiring. Very rarely does that actually happen to where a coach will hold a press conference and he will announce, I am retiring, and that's how it gets out there. That's unfortunately the era of college football that we're living in. But I mean, they had to do something today. It just was little different messaging than I expected.
I hope he's not retired. And here's what I mean by that. He's with college football in the current state, Gene Taylor did a good job talking about that. He's not coming back to this. He's not even going to go back to the FCS because now you can't keep your players. They're all poached, which, he understands. He's been part of that process. I could truly see Chris Klieman going to a small college and saying, oh, I want to coach, just to coach, just be around kids, to be around football, less pressure, just kind of hometown team, and teach the game. I could kind of see that. When Bill Snyder retired the first time, I always thought if there's ever been a coach that is perfect for an Army academy or military academy, it's him. First of all, he predates the offensive runner. Second off, he's just a brilliant coach who upholds all the principles of the academies. I feel the same way about Chris Klieman in a small school. I think he just wants to coach. But I know this, he's wanted to spend more time with his wife, Rhonda. There was an incident, a medical incident involving her twin sister last year that shook them to the core because they're twins. And I did think he would retire at one point after this year, but as the season went, there was no way he was walking out on that.
Yep.
And I do wonder if they went 5-7, if he would walk out on it. I don't know that he would. I think it felt like, okay, the season went bad, but we saved it in the best way we could. We're going to go to a bowl game if the players want to. I can't imagine they wouldn't.
And we can get into that. That's an interesting conversation.
And then, everything seemed on course here, and then boom, we're doing something different.
So I got a text from one of my buddies, but does this happen if the referees don't call a 12 men on the field penalty against Utah, and
It's very valid.
K-State doesn't lose this game. I mean, I'm not saying that the Utah game is the reason why Chris Klieman decided to hang it up. Obviously, all of the reasons that Gene Taylor talked about at the beginning of his press conference that he quote unquote said pissed him off. He's got up on a soapbox and talked about the problems that we're facing in today's college football. That was the ultimate factor, along with Chris Klieman's health, as he stated. But with that being said, we talked about that. Big B put it on one of our podcasts, how he was emotionally hijacked. That it kind of feels like that was just the time where Gene Taylor, that image is going to stick with me, of Gene Taylor going over to Chris Klieman saying, "We got your back." I mean, that was such a reaffirming moment. And I think it told everybody that he is facing some deeper personal problems that he has to really grapple with. Is it really worth it to continue to do this if it doesn't make you happy? Because you could tell this is not the same man even 2 years ago. And I don't even think it had that much to do with winning. I just think the whole reason he got into coaching is completely gone now. And he's right. He said he was one of the lucky ones. You usually don't get to go out on your own terms, but he did. And there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, in many ways, the bravest thing a coach can do is leave on their own terms.
Mm-hmm.
I've always joked that people always said, well, Snyder will retire when, and I'm like, he's never going to retire with that little push, because these competitive guys like Bill Snyder and Chris Klieman don't want to retire after a bad season, and after a good season, they want to build upon it. It's just kind of a loop here. But he knew this was time, and he knew that probably deep down inside. I worried about him even surviving another season. Now, we don't know. There's some health issue. I don't know what it is. I'll be really, really honest here, and I've been open about my prostate cancer journey. One of the things you go through is they put you on hormone repressants and you become a sobbing mess. And I'm like, nobody felt for Chris Klieman as much as me, because I've been through that, because you get your hormones in balance. It kind of felt that way. And I don't believe that's what's going on with it. But, prayers to him and Rhonda and the kids, and hope he sticks around. Gene eventually will retire and move to Arizona. He talked about that. I think Gene will probably be around for another year. But I want to talk about some of the stuff Gene mentioned about the problems in college athletics. And he dug into this a little bit more than what has been in the past. There was a House settlement that was in place. It was supposed to be a rev share of a set amount, $20.5 million, escalating 4% a year, roughly $1 million, and renegotiated in 2030, something, I don't know. That was supposed to be the budget for everyone. It was supposed to be a cap as it was negotiated. And as soon as that was announced, Independent NIL said, the hell you are. You have no control over us. And courts agreed. And so universities basically said, okay, we'll do the 20.5 revenue share, but we're still going to do NIL. And that will be the end of college athletics, not college football, college athletics. Because if you destroy football, everything else is gone. And I think we're going to get to a point here where the other conferences are going to have to tell the SEC and Big Ten, we don't want to be part of this. You guys are on a road to peril. You guys are going to destroy the sport. I was told by a very good source, Ohio State spent $60 million on their roster this year. That's more than double what Tech did. How do you sustain $60 million a year in the college environment? How do you sustain 30? Keep in mind, all of these athletic departments are broke. One of them was profitable. That was Kansas State. Now it's not going to be profitable. One of them didn't get any state money, any university money, no student fees. That's Kansas State. Other schools do it, but not many. Now they got to pay that whole bill. This is going to destroy college athletics. The end result is the rev share is supposed to go to all sports. It's not. It's not. Around the country, the rev share is going to the rev producers.
If football is not a rev producer,
Well, but football and men's basketball are going to get all the money.
Right.
So the swimmers who brought the lawsuit that set all this in motion,
Yeah.
new swimmers aren't going to get much money. In fact, swimmers probably can watch their sports be deleted.
Well, you talked about athletic departments. I mean, Colorado is a prime example of this. There was a report that came out yesterday where the budget deficit that they're facing in that athletics department is tremendous. And I don't think K-State's anywhere near that right now, but that's because this whole consolidation of the Wildcat NIL, that's a part of that. They are making sure that they are bringing that in-house because they want to follow the rules. And I want to give Texas Tech some credit here because Joy McGuire has been steadfast that they want to do whatever the Big 12 wants to do. If they want to go out and break the rules, they can. But he has said, and Cody Campbell, who is their billionaire donor, has said he wants to do whatever the rules are. Right now, they're playing within the rules.
Exactly.
But if the rules change, he is going to play within the rules. I don't understand why we can't have more of that. You should want to have more of that. And I thought it was interesting and maybe a little off topic, but Joy McGuire goes on Pat McAfee the other day, and Pat McAfee makes a joke. We got to get you out of the Big 12. And Joy McGuire says, no, we're not leaving the Big 12. Right? Like, again, ESPN. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's a whole nother conversation. But it goes exactly with what Gene Taylor was talking about. And it's this whole problem that Chris Klieman sees. He saw it firsthand, not just on the field, but in every other aspect. And so you can't blame him for wanting to step away. And I really don't blame Gene Taylor for starting the press conference like that because he said the quiet part out loud.
Yep. I'm going to just be really honest here. Unless there's an organization that can provide substantial penalties for people who violate the rules, there are no rules.
Mm-hmm.
The SEC bought football players for many, many years. Nothing ever happened. Because if you don't enforce the rules, there are no rules. If you're allowed to murder someone and walk away, you might murder someone and walk away. There has to be a penalty involved in any violation of rules. And the NCAA has been so feckless for so long that teams just said, we don't need to listen to you because we're just gonna go win. It's more important for us to win than follow the rules. And here's the thing, Cole, they're right. Has anyone lost a national championship for cheating? Michigan? No.
Michigan State has had wins taken away, but not Michigan for a national championship.
And this is the crap that makes the NCAA useless. But it's a bad situation. But the net effect here is every program, including Kansas State, needs to find a coach that can adapt to this. And Chris Klieman's honest. He didn't want this. And this isn't why he coached, to be negotiating salaries with college football players. Oh, hell no.
No.
And let's be honest, it's not the players that are the problem. It's the parents. It's the parents who suddenly see their child as a moneymaker and as a commodity to be shopped, not really worried about, in many cases, their best interests. So, it's a mess. But K-State did sign a new recruiting class today. Let's get into that.
Yeah.
They listed 23. We don't list 23 on GoPowercat. Why don't you explain that real quick?
So, yeah, we have 20 listed on our site. If you were to go over to GoPowercat.com and click on the football recruiting section and go to commitments, you'd see there's 20 signed letter of intent guys that we have so far. The 3 that were not listed, long snapper, a kicker, and an interior offensive lineman, Jordan Jensen from Iowa Central, who still not fully sure that the backstory there, kind of an under the radar signee. I believe this could be a preferred walk-on situation, but because of the whole scholarship numbers and you just can have 105. So I think that's just more of a depth piece. So we're not going to list that on there. But the 20 guys who we were tracking, there's still one more that's going to announce on Friday. But K-State did get Caprice Keith, wide receiver from Omaha Central, flipped him from Iowa State today, as well as getting the commitment of Andy Berberia from Iowa Western Community College, flipping from Washington State. So there was 18 going into today. They finished with 20, with the potential to get 21, add one more guy. As they sit right now, they're 52 on the composite rankings on our competitions website. I believe they're top 40. So overall, it's a really good haul. And yeah, it gets lost in the shuffle today. But what Taylor Bratt and company were able to do, I think, is really, really noteworthy.
This is a good class. And it's not as sexy because it's a bunch of offensive and defensive linemen,
Yeah.
but by God, they needed that.
Yeah.
They have to upgrade that area. And they went into, I like how they list edges or defensive ends. They've got them on here. They were edges and D tackles. And they signed 4 D tackles, including one out of the JUCO ranks. That's almost as many as they had on scholarship.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, as they've reformed this defense, they've needed more of that. Now it becomes interesting. What will Colin Klein want to run?
Right.
Who from this staff will be on that staff? Will there be anyone? I would imagine there will be, since he's worked with a lot of these people. But I also imagine this is an opportunity where a lot of coaches will be encouraged to retire or move on or move positions or whatever. It's definitely a shakeup. I feel for everyone that's on the staff, whether they're coaches or staff members. I think you're going to be somewhat protected because of Colin Klein coming back, but a lot of people will be out of work. So this is a tough day for people up there.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of that, how do you talk to a kid after this news breaks? They literally, for a majority of them, had already signed.
Yeah.
And you bring up the transfer portal. There is still a way for them to get out of their letter of intent. They have to talk to the petition the NCAA, and you would think that would be granted. So it's signed. They're still going to have to do some convincing. But I will say that I really wouldn't anticipate a ton of guys leaving. A lot of these guys, as Taylor Bratt talked about, like, they commit to K-State for K-State. And he brought up a good point. The conversations with those guys were, you committed to Kansas State. You knew for the next 4 or 5 years there was going to be changes, especially some of these guys. You look at Steve Stanner, he's been in the business for a long time. Mike Tuiasosopo, same thing. Buddy White, these guys, even if Chris Klieman would have stayed for another year or two, there's a good chance that they might have not have stayed for another year or two. So there was going to be change that was inevitable. But I think a lot of these kids they signed, they picked K-State because of K-State, and there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of that. I mean, that's the fact that all these kids signed, and we haven't heard of any pushback on this. Give me your favorite player in this class.
It's a great question. I think that there's a lot of really, really talented players, but I think Lawson McGraw is my favorite. The K-State legacy aspect, John McGraw's son, Lawson McGraw, Blue Valley West High School, defensive end, tight end. They list him as an athlete, but as Taylor pointed out in the press conference, he's going to play tight end. And, missing out on Ian Premer, K-State really didn't have like a headliner in this class, you could say. But Lawson McGraw has turned into a really, really special player. We have him listed as a 4-star prospect, K-State's only 4-star prospect in this class. And I fully back that up. He reminds me a little bit of Garrett Oakley, probably more of a blocker at this stage in his career. Is coming off of a shoulder injury, which will make him enroll in the summertime. But I really like him. And anytime you have those genes, like, you're going to be okay. And K-State, this is an interesting note as well, signed 2 players who have dads who played in the NFL. Lawson McGraw with John McGraw, and Caprice Keith, his father, Kenton Keith, played for the Indianapolis Colts as well.
Did y'all know that?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. My dad did not play in the NFL. I don't know why I said that. Give me your sleeper.
Well, can I say the long snapper?
Definitely
5-star long snapper, by the way. Wyatt Wheeler. Shout out to Wyatt Wheeler if you're watching this. He posted a tweet that was about that. My sleeper in this class, there's a lot of really good players. I think HD Davis, running back from Texas.
He's interesting.
First of all, it's an amazing name. HD. That is his name.
You talk about that sounds like someone from 1950s Texas.
Yes. He sounds like he should star in Landman.
Right.
HD Davis. Running back from Wolf City. It's a tiny, I believe, 2A Texas high school. Put up just monster video game numbers. Thousands and thousands of rushing yards. Over averaging nearly 200 rushing yards a game for Wolf City. Just a fantastic squats, almost 500 pounds as a running back. So, I mean, this guy has all the intangibles, but he's a sleeper because he didn't have a single other Power 4 offer. And he's a running back. Well, history should tell us Brian Anderson has a way to develop running backs who are under-recruited, and I think K-State is getting a really, really good one with that kid.
That's a cool name.
Yep.
who's going to come in and help right away?
You got to look at the defensive tackles.
Yep.
I mean, that's the first thing I look at. I found it interesting. K-State did go out and they recruited a defensive tackle from Sweden. I'm happy that question got asked. How do you recruit someone from Sweden, someone from another country? Adrian Becca-Bailey, and I really like him. I don't know if he's maybe an instant contributor, but that's the kind of kid where you don't know what you have until you strap on the pads and you really see him go against live competition. Maybe he comes out and he's a star right away. Maybe it takes him some time to develop. So I would say, if you were to ask me, someone from that defensive tackle group would probably be able to come in right away and play. But as far as instant contributors, it's Derek Sally Jr., the wide receiver from Hutch JUCO. No question about it. The number one JUCO wide receiver, top 10 in the country. I'm fired up about that kid, and I know Taylor talked about him as well. Guy has a chance to come in, be really good. He's 6'4", 220 pounds as a receiver. And if you want to watch him play, Hutchison plays on Saturday. Him and MJ Graham, two Hutch guys, they'll play Saturday, 6 o'clock in Hutch on ESPN Plus. If you want to check that out.
Yep. That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be at a party. Okay, give me your kind of long-term development star. The guy you think once he gets into college and starts to develop, he's going to be special.
I brought up Caprice Keith, but I'm going to say him again. Commits to Iowa State as a defensive back, and his ability now to switch over and play offense. That's what K-State had targeted him at. You know, he had kind of indicated early on, like, that's what he wants to do. So he comes to K-State as a wide receiver. Getting a chance to just focus on that side of the ball, I think, will really help his development. I could say him or Lawson McGraw. I go back to that NFL gene. Like, these guys are football players.
They know how to do it.
And you know, that's not always a great indicator, but I think that, you know, probably Caprice Keith is a guy who I really look at, but there's honestly so many guys on here. I haven't even, you know, talked about Keegan Collins, a tackle. Oliver Miller, we've yet to talk about, who we heard glowing things about. K-State had to fend off Ohio State to land Oliver Miller. You talk about an instant contributor at the offensive line. It could be him, but yeah, I mean, I would probably say Caprice Keith is a guy who I look at as you give him a year or two and he could really blossom into a star.
K-State's never fit the parameters of how you measure recruiting classes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, recruiting classes are based on whatever the star ranking that most likely was established when you were a sophomore or junior.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but when I was 16, I didn't look anything like I did when I was 19. K-State's went and found the guys that maybe are developing more slowly. They have less stars, but they develop. Can you still be a developmental program in this environment of 105 scholarship limit, 105 roster limit, and set aside room for those guys? Or do you have to change how you think about things?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, we'd see more H.D. Davises. Like, that's a guy who's going to probably need some time to develop. And I'm not going to say that you can throw guys out on the field and expect them to produce, but you look at these guys on the skill position, that's kind of the kind of guys they're going after. They have one really elite skill. And if you have one really elite skill, then the staff's going to try and get that out of you, develop your other ones, and then hopefully you can play early. It's not like before where, okay, if we refine his game in this area, and this area, he's going to turn into the complete package. It's this guy's really good at this particular thing. So let's use him until he develops his other aspects. I think that if you can identify someone who has one really elite trait and bring that out of them when they arrive on campus, it makes your program better because you're getting those guys invested into the program, you're getting them onto the field, and you're getting them ready to play at a high level. So when they are developed, they're ready to go.
It'll be interesting this next week or so. I think it's going to move really fast.
I do.
Gene said that. It's not like the old days where you could have a 2-week search. You got to move, and you got to move fast. I think this will be, unless they hit a hiccup here. I know I thought earlier in the year there was no way they would get Colin Klein, but I don't think he had the interest from Southeastern Conference or other conferences that he quite thought. Reports out of College Station that he was on the verge of taking the South Florida job, which ended up going to Ohio State's offense.
Brian Hartline, yeah.
So that'd have been a great job. I would probably go visit him in Tampa.
Well, can we talk about that? I mean,
I would have just probably stayed.
I mean, Tampa, Florida, USF, they had committed, and I know there was reports out there. USF is putting a lot of money into football. They're
That's right.
talking about they were going to meet that rev share, that 20.5, and be one of the only group of 5 schools to actually meet that 20.5 rev share, which you'd have to imagine almost all of it would go towards football.
Right.
So they're investing in their program. I think that's probably why you see a guy go from Ohio State to USF. I know
Right.
Brian Hartline, a major target for Kentucky as well. So they're treating that job like a Power 4
Right.
job. And so for K-State to be able to, we think anyway, snag Colin Klein from that to bring him to Kansas State would be really big. And I know people have been talking about Gene's comments. I don't believe him. We talked about that at the start of the show. But with that being said, if he hasn't reached out to him yet, it's probably time to do that, because you want to find out sooner rather than later if he is going to be in Manhattan or if he is going to stay in College Station, as we talked about, and finish out the season. But either way, if he's running the shots in College Station or running the shots in Manhattan, you want to get that done sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Gene doing what he's supposed to do in his job. We'll see how this all develops. Any final thoughts on recruiting?
I'm excited for this class, but I mean,
too.
it's not done yet, right? Like with the coaching change, I would anticipate maybe a little movement. We're going to follow it, but I think just it's important for fans to understand. Don't be alarmed if kids decide this isn't the place for me, both current players and recruits, because there is going to be some roster movement with this.
I don't know if this is going to settle down the transfer portal with Kansas State or speed it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I'm interested in. I think we know that there's some prominent players on this team that would be candidates for the transfer portal, probably desirable and worth the money to other schools that have more money. But I don't know what this does. And I don't even know what it does with Avery Johnson. I'm not. Some people have said he loves Colin. Other people said he doesn't want to be a running quarterback like Colin. I'm just going to tell Avery, I'd like to be a male model, but I am what I am. You got to live with that. And dude, you're a runner.
Yeah. You
got to learn to complement that with your passing, not decrease your running to make yourself a passer. It's not how it works. You got to be who you are. And I don't know if he's really comfortable with the old K-State way of running power. Let's be blunt. He's fragile. He can't take a hit like the other guys could. He's not a big guy.
It's
great hair.
So it is interesting. You look at the quarterback room. Blake Barnett recruited by Colin Klein. He signed after Klein left, but Blake Barnett was recruited by Colin Klein. Avery Johnson recruited by Colin Klein. Those two guys are still here. And so, what does that look like? I look at another guy like Jace Brown. Was given an opportunity as a true freshman by his offensive coordinator, Colin Klein. Same thing with Avery.
Right.
So some of these guys who we've been talking about, there is still that influence there. And will they decide that they want to stay because of the potential return of Colin, or will they want to move on? I don't know. But it would be, if I was one of those guys and I'm watching Texas A&M and I'm watching how that offense is, and you think that could be you next year, it would be very hard to be like, I think I might be able to find something else.
Let me back up and ask you one more recruiting thing. You mentioned quarterbacks. What are your thoughts on Miles Tedecki?
Yeah, that's another guy we haven't even talked about. A Matt Wells special. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to say that I don't expect him to end up with Kansas State, but when you have a quarterback probably coming in as your head coach, there could be some movement at that spot. I really like Miles Tedecki. I think that he has a really, really high ceiling. He's a state champion, 6A state champion in Texas. His team is still playing in the playoffs. He put up monster numbers his junior season. The reason he was under-recruited is because he's a lefty. Mm-hmm. And that's what K-State has to do, is they have to go out and they have to find these guys. Maybe they have one flaw, and that's why somebody didn't want to recruit him. It just so happens for Miles that he was a lefty. So, I like him a lot. And who knows, if there is movement in this quarterback room, he seems like a guy who he's got a lot of experience at a very high level of football. Somebody to keep an eye on.
It will be interesting. And, we expect Matt Wells probably to move on. I think he could become a head coach again at lower levels. And maybe a player like that would want to go with him to there. We'll find out. There's a lot of things that are going to be decided here. Any final thoughts on anything that's happened today?
Well, I have so many thoughts that I don't have any.
I know.
I've been up since 6:30 in the morning, tracking all of
I
this.
did a radio show
Just
earlier
crazy.
today, and I would start an answer, and by halfway in between the answer, 4 different things have rifled through my head, and I have no idea what the original answer was.
Yeah.
It's been a mess all day. There's so many things going on.
It's only Wednesday, Fitz. It's only
boy.
Wednesday.
Oh boy. That's it for this GoPowercat Live, discussing football recruiting and the sudden retirement of Chris Klieman as Kansas State's football coach. This story started to develop yesterday afternoon. That's why so much of what we heard today doesn't add up about the timing of everything and how everything aligned. I know about, I don't know, late afternoon, 3, 4, I started hearing stuff, but it was originally about Gene. So people knew something was going on. But by the end of the evening, it had been refined pretty well. Gene's staying, and Chris is retiring, and Colin's coming back. We had 2 of those things happen today, but according to Gene Taylor, he hasn't spoken to Colin Klein. As my mama once told me, son, I don't believe a word you said.